You know, I was figuring it out. I've been coming here almost 20 years. And there are very few places that I go that, and this isn't going to make a lot of sense to some of you because I know Sunday mornings, there's a lot of people don't want to be here because it's raining. Yeah. But when you have done this, now I've been in the ministry now over 50 years, and I'm glad I didn't tell anybody because my birthday is going to be coming up in 2 weeks as well. So see, when you get at a certain age, you don't want to have to deal with all that. All the flowers and the cards and the just give me a check. That's all I need. I don't need the other stuff. So, but see, when you get older, some of you will understand that. But when you have been shot twice, thrown off of a building, I've done 4 tours in Ukraine. This last one was almost 4 months ago, pretty much 4 months out after being blown up in a drone attack in Russia. So when I talk to you today, understand that when you have seen what I've seen, and this is the very reason why I don't get invited to speak much to a lot of churches, because I know what people expect. I'm not that. I've never been that. And I will never be that. So when you are getting ready to be 75 years old and you're still going to these other parts of the world doing what myself and several of the guys that I've worked with in different parts of the world doing different things, then it will be no surprise for some of you that know me because I've been coming here a long time, and some of the folks that probably don't like me aren't here today because they know that. But I need to say this because it's, when you're 75, everything just changes. How you look at people, how you look at church life, how you look at the other life, it just changes. So I'm kind of at this weird place in my life. I used to counsel people a lot, used to counsel young people. I don't do that anymore because most of them are just too stupid to take good counsel anyway. So why am I going to spend my time talking to people that just they're going to do what they want to do anyway? You know how people are. Now, I'm glad you young guys are here. Are you guys here like because you have to be here at the front row? Or what's your story? Oh, your parents are the worship leaders. Okay. I knew there had to be a really good reason because most young people, they're sitting at, you know what I'm saying. Yeah, they're here. And that's good to know. But before I get into it, of all the times with all my injuries in this last mess, in this drone attack, and I'll talk about it more in the next service, but I ended up getting my 6th concussion in that mess. Punctured lung, 3 broken ribs, a couple of broken fingers, and piece of the drone, the metal from the explosion drone came up and caught me pretty good in the face. But I always carry super glue. And so if you don't carry super glue, you need to, because Because what we call in the military, you just, when you're bleeding real bad, you flip the wound over, you pour the super glue in there, and it stops from bleeding. So it works really good. And I know we're right down the street from Johns Hopkins. Now, they won't teach you that there. So for those of you that work at that hospital, you talk to me, I'll tell you how the whole thing works. But with all the trips to the hospital and all the injuries that I've had over the years, you would think that after 50 years of preaching in a different church every week, I drove the bus yesterday in New York City for Sunday school. We drove down here yesterday, and then that's how the whole ministry worldwide operates, is me being out, sharing people the needs and how it works and how they can be a part. And you would think that after 50 years, and all the times I've been in a hospital, banged up, thrown around, that all the pastors that I've met, you would think that somebody would have visited me in the hospital. Wow, exactly. Yeah. So I want to say this because you need to know this, okay? That man sitting right there and his wife, no, just let me finish. This is not a clap moment. This is a me telling you something that you better understand moment. That man and his wife have done more to take care of me. And the times when it could have gone one way or the other. And I want you to know, you do. Thank you. More than you know. And that's why the whole thank you thing is a bit redundant to me, because it will never tell you how much I appreciate you guys. So thank you. I hope all of you know what you have in these two folks over here. I hope you know. Now you can clap, because now you need to get it. Now you need to get it. You better get it. Yep. Yeah, I've seen a lot of preachers come and go. Most of them now have been selling water purifiers, selling used cars. One of them I know used to pastor one of the biggest Assembly of God church in Dallas, Texas. He's driving a super shuttle at the DFW airport. So I have a lot of people, turn this thing up. I don't like the way this sounds. Clean it up. I just do that just to make people irritated. But when you have seen a lot of people come and go, as I have in my life, then you really understand why this church has become the lighthouse and a beacon that it is in this part of the world. And again, thank you, my friends. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I know you've had some guest speakers here, and so I don't want to ruin their routine, but if you're a guest speaker, you have to sell something, because that's part of being a guest speaker. Anyways, I think most of you guys at this point probably have read Whose Child Is This? I would think. If you have not, I would suggest a book that will make you laugh, it'll make you cry, but it will force you to see life in a different way. It'll make you see yourself in a different way. We're finishing up the last printing that will probably be an upgraded, because I was in Zambia. I just landed at JFK from Zambia 2 nights ago, where we started Metro Sunday School there. And it just started 2 weeks ago, and the first week we had 41,002. in Sunday school. You guys are part of this. Bring it up. You guys are part of this. You are a very big part of this. And it's very important for you to know. You've had great speakers. You've had great missionaries here. But just so you know, I am your missionary all over the world. I represent this church, I think, pretty well. And so wherever I go, whatever part of the world that I'm in, dealing with stuff that a lot of folks choose not to deal with, I represent this church. And if you are not following me and what we do on Facebook, you may want to. There's a lot of things that are consistently happening there. I'm going to be doing 2 different messages today because I just got a lot to say. And so 2 different messages. The books, there's a lot of things at the table. We've got a bunch of our Metro New York people here. I think they're over, yeah, here they are. Stand up over here. All the Metro people. They're going to be at the back table. So, yep. They're much nicer than I am. So you can talk to them. They'll smile. I don't. Not anymore. But they'll answer any questions on the books and all the other things that there. You will see these bracelets. I think I've had them with me the last couple of times. These are our ladies from the Philippines that live in the garbage dump. They sit and wait for the garbage trucks in the morning, and they look for the magazines with the glossy covers. And so they take the glossy covers, take scissors, and cut these covers into strips, and they wet them, make them into these beads, and they make these necklaces. And they sell them on the street in Manila, there in the Philippines, and that's how they feed their families. So when I saw this the first time, several years back now, and I thought, man, I need to just take these things out and give them to people. And there is no price for this. It's whatever you want to give. Just throw it back there on the table. But if you take one, I would ask you that you wear it and remember the ladies and their kids that live in the garbage dump where we do Sunday school in the North Cemetery. Every Friday, we do Sunday school in the cemetery where there's almost 1,000 people that live on the tombs, around the graves, and that's another whole story on that. But there's a lot of things back there. They'll answer all your questions. And then, of course, for those of you over the years that you have sponsored our kids, many of you have sponsored kids, so thank you. If you're one of our sponsors here today, by sponsoring one of the kids that we have committed our lives to. And I know there's a lot of stuff you see on TV. I get it. I see it just like you do. But when we allow folks to sponsor these kids, we have kids from Metro Philippines, Metro Kenya. You do more than just a check. That's great. That helps us to do what we do individually with these kids. But more than that, we ask you to not just even pray for the child, but understand that you are a very big part of this child's life. When you live in a cemetery, when you live in a garbage dump, and there's somebody in America that they know prays for them, I don't even know how to explain it, guys. But I hope most of you are intuitive and spiritual enough to know that when you have nothing, like these kids have, then somebody that really cares for you, and in Kenya, it gives them a hot meal every day, which is their food. You know how the things play in some of these parts of the world. So our team will be out there. If you have not sponsored one of the kids, I would ask you to just take a minute, take a look. These are the neediest of the needy ones. That's why they're on the back table. And it was several years ago, and I think I talked to you guys about this little boy in Haiti that that somebody just threw him out the window of the car in front of the orphanage that we had helped to start in Haiti. This was several years back. And it was one of those deals where the girl said, Pastor Bill, we got this little boy, and nobody wanted him, and they just left him out on the side of the road outside the orphanage, and we don't know exactly what to do. And so they sent me the picture of this little boy. If you guys can give me that first picture. For those of you, because I talked about this when this happened, because I talked to you about it, I'm sure, at least 10 years ago. And most of these kids that live in these parts of the country, it's not unusual that have these tumors like this. A lot of it is, I don't have a lot of time to go on the reasons why this is so prevalent in certain parts of the world. But for him, they were trying, put the picture back up, please. They were putting a straw in the little boy's mouth, trying to feed him in there, and it wasn't enough to get the nourishment in there. Consequently, his chances of making it long term, pretty tough, as you can imagine. And so, if you remember, I went down there and we got the operation. We got him, because he was born in the bush, so I was going to bring him here to the States to try to get the operation done. But he didn't have a birth certificate. So I went down there and I said, okay, he was born in the bush. So I found a guy that makes fake birth certificates. See, now I know. See, I know when I say that. That's why I hesitate, because I know those of you spiritual folks, you're just giving me the dog look. You know what the dog look is? When you talk to your dog and your dog goes. So do not give me the dog look, folks. You haven't been where I've been. You haven't done what I've done. You haven't seen what I've seen. So do not give me the dog look. That's why I tell people, when you travel overseas, always carry American money. Always. Because if you don't, you'll wish you had. So I found a guy. He goes, yeah, we can make him a birth certificate. I said, great. I said, let's do it in Jesus' name. And so we got the birth certificate, got the passport, and got him here. Got him in a hospital in Miami, Children's Hospital. Long story. And he made it through it. He made it through it. Praise the Lord. I was able to find a good sponsor for him that prayed for him, cared for him, and so many stories. We just don't have time to get all in. But after the operation, give me that next picture, Annie, if you will. When you see, that's after the operation. Come on. Now you can clap. Now you can clap. Yep. So doctors did a pretty good job. Pretty good job. And so that was kind of the end of the story when I told you guys this years ago, when this was all happening. And I always like to tell people what they're a part of long term. You know, it's nice to see, okay, the kid had the tumor, got this sorted out, great kid. But I got a picture not long ago, because he was, if I remember correctly, he was almost 8 or 9 when this was going on. And so when I got this latest picture, it was kind of interesting, because now, can you give me that next picture? Now we're 10 years later. 10 years later. Yeah. And that boy now, who's 19 years old, is now a Sunday school teacher, teaching kids that were just like him in that country And I wanted you guys to see this. Those of you that have been around me all these years when I've been here, you've seen this part. This is the long-term effect, folks. Long-term. It's not just about, this is nice, get the picture of the kid, pray for the child. It's a long-term commitment. That's why I tell people, this is a long-term commitment. You are a part of a kid's life that now was not going to make it. It was that simple. But because a couple of people stepped up to make a difference, and that's what you see is the long-distance result of one person, and other people that prayed were a big part of this child's life. And so I wanted you guys to know, when you look at the pictures, don't run out real quick, because our team that's there also has a very vested interest in all these children. So thank you guys. I want you to see it and what you're a part of. And so that's what we're doing. I want you to get your Bibles out quickly. I will not be in front of you too long here, because I want to go back to the table myself and answer any questions that you have. But I have, most of you know, and I have more degrees than a thermometer, and most of them are totally useless. But it helps to sell books, those 3 little extra letters at the end of your name. So I've got 2 BAs, an MD, a PhD. I picked up an MD at the University of Paris in my spare time during COVID. And so all of those things have not made me any smarter, I don't think. I just did the work. I did the work that it took to get the 3 letters at the end of my name. And I say that to say that when you look at people as long as I have in so many different circumstances of life, I have learned 2 critical things. I'm going to pick up on a different angle on this in the next service. But in this one, I want to talk about the truth that God opens big doors on very small hinges. Now, I saw you starting to write some stuff down. That's wisdom. God opens very big doors on very small hinges, the little things. I talk about defining moments. Most of you know when the man picked me up off the street corner where my mother left me. That was 1960. I sat on that street corner. You've heard me tell this story here dozens of times. For those of you that haven't heard me or seen me, then it's this ordinary Christian, operative word, who did not have 3 letters at the end of his name. He was actually driving to the hospital to visit his own son who was dying of leukemia. And yet, in the struggle in his own family's life, his own son dying, he still, on that 3rd afternoon, chose to pull his car over to the side of the road, walked across the street. I was 12 years old. He put his hand on my shoulder and just asked me, "Are you okay?" 1, 2, 3 more letters. Huh. I guess they just need to be the right letters, don't they? I think so. Are you okay? You okay? And I used to stutter really bad. And I told him, my mother's gone and I'm just hungry. And when he recognized the situation immediately, he didn't have to go to a seminar. Hey, seminars are good sometimes. Didn't go to a seminar. didn't do any of the regular kind of prerequisites to doing something that would have some great effect. But when he knew my mother was gone and I hadn't eaten for 3 days, immediately he got me a burger and a Coke. Who knew the role that McDonald's may have in someone's life? I don't know. Got me a hamburger, a Coke, made some phone calls, and 5 hours later, 5 hours after this meeting on a street corner, he sponsored me to go to a Sunday school camp. I heard the story of Jesus for the first time, gave my life to Christ, and something was put into motion. Because it's not what you accomplish in life, it's what you put into motion. I'm going to say that again for the cheap seats in the balcony. It's not about what you accomplish, it's what you put into motion. He did not have a clue that day in 1960 that he was putting something into motion that at some point in history would become the largest Sunday school in the world. He didn't know that then. He didn't know it then. So I wonder, do we understand the opportunities that God puts in front of us almost on a daily basis? Are we intuitive enough to catch what's happening in front of us? To put something into motion. When David Livingstone, and all of you know who David Livingstone is. If you don't, you should. So you can Google it later, because everybody in this room should know that name, David Livingstone. Livingstone was a young man, and I got the real backstory because I was preaching at the church in London where this actually happened. And there was a missionary by the name of Robert Moffat speaking that Sunday morning at that church, Central London. And he said one thing. And I'm going to tell you what he said. This is all on record. So if you want to fact check me, you can do that. It's on record. The missionary's name was Robert Moffat. And Dr. Moffat made a statement at the beginning of his message. He said, I just came back from Africa where I saw the smoke from 1,000 villages where the gospel had never been preached. The smoke from 1,000 villages. And in that corner of the balcony, right there, this auditorium was almost the same size as that auditorium in London. Right in that corner, a young man sitting by himself heard Moffat make that statement, the smoke of 1,000 villages. And in his mind's eye, he could see what Moffat was describing. He could see it. At the end of the service, Moffat was at the back shaking hands. The young man came down out of the balcony, walked to the back, shook Moffat's hand, said, Dr. Moffat, what do you need? You need money? You need resources? You need prayer? What do you need? Moffat looked at the young man and he said, I just need people. I need people to help me. Seemed like another Sunday morning service. Seemed like it. Another missionary, another young man at the balcony. Seemed like just an ordinary Sunday, because just so you understand, there are no ordinary Sundays. There are no ordinary Sundays. Unless you want it to be an extraordinary Sunday. But that's up to you. That's your call. And when Livingstone said to Moffat, I will come and help you, that put together something in a young man's life that changed the trajectory of his life and his death. David Livingstone, the young man, died in Africa, gave his life for the African people. And when they were going to send his body back to London to be buried the two of the converts of Livingston said, no. And they took a knife and they cut his heart out of his dead body, put it in a metal box, locked it, buried it under a tree in Africa, and said, his heart was always with us. Now it'll be with us forever. Now that may just be a story for some of you, a historical story. But there was something that happened that morning. There was a door that had been opened to a young man that gave his life for missions, that gave his life for other people. How does it take, or maybe what does it take? That may be a better word of saying it. What does it take for us to be aware of defining moments in your life? I liked it when you guys had steps here, because I just come out and I used to grab people. So all of you, remember that? So next time I come, I'm going to bring some steps so I can just run back out there and grab some of you. What is a defining moment? That moment in time that your life can be changed forever. And from that defining moment, other lives are changed for eternity. A defining moment. The man who picked me up off the street. Give me that picture, Yinny. I think we've got that picture of Dave. Is he up there? Can you get that to me? Yeah, you know who me is. That'd be me. But you don't know the other guy. That's the guy that picked me up off the street. Yeah, that's yeah. Take a good look of what ordinary looks like. Ordinary looks like. Because it's always ordinary people who choose to do extraordinary things when they see a moment that becomes a defining moment for him and for me. Thank you. I want you to flip over to 1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians chapter 16. I want you to see if this makes sense to you. I've jotted some things down here. And I want you to see if something connects. Because the one thing I say often is big doors open on very small hinges. Big doors open on very small hinges. I guess if there was a title for this message, I think it would probably have to be this. I've said it once, I'll say it several times in this. Because in 1 Corinthians chapter 16, Paul is talking about him tarrying at Ephesus until Pentecost. But I want to focus on this 9th verse on the 16th chapter. Paul said that a great and effective door had been opened unto him, comma, and there were many adversaries. How is it that every one of us, and maybe just because after you've done this all your life, like I have, and I've seen people like Dave, the man that picked me up off the street, and how he did not understand exactly the implication of what he did when he picked me up off the street corner, and yet as years went on, and him and I had conversations to kind of understand what happened in my life, because he chose to stop. He saw something that my own mother did not see in me, and yet because he chose to stop, a door had been opened to me, and I came to the front. Altar was packed. Pentecostal meeting. Every kid that came to the altar had somebody praying with them. I was the only kid that didn't have anyone that was praying for them, because I still had the same clothes on that I was picked up on the street in. I stuttered. I was still dirty. You know the story. Of course you do. And yet, I was the only one that nobody wanted to pray with. And yet, I gave my life to Christ. In my life, what happened? It was this. It was this. And everything changed. So what then? How then? How does God deal with people, ordinary people, that just kind of living their ordinary lives? And suddenly something just is put into motion. A door, when I just told you, just came back from Zambia. And first week in the Sunday school, 41,000. First week. Now, I don't know if that registers to everybody. But when you just start something from nothing, and that first week you start it, and there's 41,000 kids that showed up in Sunday school for that first week, it's like, how does that happen? Because there has been a great and effective door. Pastor and I were talking about it before we came out here this morning. God is opening doors for us, and just so you know, you are a part of it. You are a part of what God is doing in us and through us, and because you are here and you know what's going on, this is a team effort, guys. We do what we do. Missions is always servers and senders. There's the servers. It's people like myself, our team members, all of our folks around the world. But if we didn't have senders like you guys and churches like this, we couldn't do what we do. I can't go back again. They want me to go back to Ukraine for the 5th time. Now, is that smart? Well, probably not. But when a door opens, 1 Corinthians chapter 16, I'm going to focus on the 9th verse. For a great and effective door that has been opened unto me. What kind of door is Paul talking about? What kind of door has been opened unto him? I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of Greek. I have a tendency to go in that direction, but I'm not going to get it boring. But I want you to follow me on purpose and see if this makes sense to you guys, and then I'll be done with this first service. What kind of door is Paul talking about here? I think, number one, it had to be a door of opportunity. A door of opportunity. Paul had been there for 3 years. He's smart enough to know that God had put together circumstances, situations. A door had been opened, the proverbial door, big door, opens on very small hinges. The little things that God throws in front of almost all of us every day. Are you open? Are you sharp enough? Are you intuitive enough that when God opens a door for you to do something, are you ready to step through it? That's what I've got to ask you. I have to. Because when that door opens, the question is, what are you going to do with that? It's a door of opportunity. This word, effectual, I don't know what translation in King James. It's a great door. It's an effectual door. That word effectual is really where the root word comes from of effect. Paul was saying there was a door, my God, a door that was designed to be opened to him that was going to have an effect on something. So I ask you, are you willing to walk through the door that God is opening to you that is designed to make an effect on something, someone, a situation, a circumstance? With all this stupid stuff in the internet, these influencers, these pinheads that are an influencer. You know, I hope none of you are that today, but if you are that, please see me at the back table. Because I'd love to have a come to Jesus meeting with you. I I wish we could have influencers in the body of Christ whose whole design in their life is to influence people of ministry. Are you that person that is willing to see the door that God is opening to you to be an influencer for Jesus Christ? Is that what you want to do? Or are you just hum? Or now looking at the other side? I don't know, folks. We need somebody. I never thought I would live long enough to see we'd be having conversations. This is a man a man? Is a man a woman? Is somebody identifying as a cat? Please talk to me, because I haven't been in a fight now for a couple weeks. And when I'm not in a brawl with somebody, just be careful. And you think I'm joking, don't you? Now, you don't do that here. Paul said there was a door that was designed to have an effect. Are you having an effect on somebody, a situation, a circumstance? Are you affecting your neighborhood? I don't know, folks. Paul was trying to convince people that there was a great door that God had opened to him. But wait a minute. Was a door of opportunity? Absolutely. But number two, I believe it was a door of obligation. Write it down. It was a door of obligation. Now this word here, opened, in the Greek, it's actually in the perfect tense in the Greek language, which means what? It means somebody opened that door for him. This was a great and effective door that was designed to have an effect, and he knew that God was the one who opened the door. God, when you understand that God has opened the door for you, let me tell you something. You have an obligation, my friends, to walk through the door. Look at the person next to you and say, I think he's talking to you. Yeah, I think I'm talking to all y'all. It's a door of opportunity, but number two, it's a door of obligation. I carry this in my bag that I carry every week on the trip. I carry this door handle in my bag. It's always fun when they put this through the x-ray machine at the airport. They said, what is that? I said, what's it look like? And then it begins to start a conversation. So, here's the door in. So, when you understand that God has opened a door for you, you better have your hand on the handle, my friend, because when God opens the door for you, you have an obligation to walk through the door, and it's time to roll. It's time to move. Everybody in this room, everybody should live with their hand. I said, live with your hand on the handle. Why? Because you don't know when God, in His timing, is going to open a door for you. And if you're out fooling around and horsing around, you're going to miss. My God. That's a good thing there's no steps here. Your hand has got to be on the handle, folks. Because when God opens that door sovereignly to you, you get ready. When that door opens, you go. It's time to go. It's time to move. That's why we're going back to Ukraine. That's why we're going to these other countries. We're starting Rwanda in a couple of weeks. Why? Because I've lived with my hand on the handle so that when God opens the door, somebody has got to go through it. You better give God a praise. You better give God a praise, folks. Better get it. Better get it. Paul's trying to explain that there was a great and effective door. It's designed to have an effect. It's a door of opportunity. It's a door of obligation. When He opens it, I'm going to break this thing, sorry. Number three, it's the third door. It's a door of opposition. It's a door of opposition. What does it say in that 9th verse? And there are many adversaries. Unfortunately, most guys, unless they really research this will help you, and then we got to go. What happens here is most Bible teachers say, well, there are adversaries. There's people that are going to be opposing you. That's not what this says in the Greek. The better transliteration of this is simply this. The same door that was opened to you, the adversaries that see that door open, if you are not willing to go through that open door, your adversaries, those critics, all those people that are throwing things at a generation of children, trying to destroy their life, the foolishness going on in the school systems. You know it, I know it. I'm not trying to get off on a tangent here, but I will if you want me to, because you know what's going on there. Somebody has got to stand up for all of this foolishness that's coming thrown at our kids. And so if you and I don't go in through this door that God has opened to make a difference, the adversaries, the ones that are trying to destroy a generation, if you don't go through it, guess what? They're going to go through it. Now, how do you want this? How do you want this, man? Because I'm not playing today, and you better not be either. Because when you see what's going on with kids today, stuff that you and I would never have imagined would be taught. Drag queens being invited to do story hours. Are you kidding? Am I the only one that's just mad? Because I'm furious, folks. I'm furious. Give me a reason. Give me a reason. It won't take much. But maybe that's a little bit much for you on Sunday morning, especially because it's raining. It's a door of what? It's a door of opportunity. It's a door of obligation when you know God is opening the door for you and I to say, it's time now to step up. It's time to step out and say, I'm going to speak with a louder voice. A lot of voices out there, folks. Somebody in the kingdom of God is going to have to speak with a louder voice. It's a door of opportunity. It's a door of obligation. It's a door of opposition, because those opposition people are waiting for you to take your hand off the handle so they can go in and destroy. That's what Paul is trying to explain there. So where does that leave us? You tell me. You tell me. When you see it, you know what Baltimore is known for. Well, you're quiet now, aren't you? Somebody better get their hand on the handle, because God's going to open some doors that are going to have an effect on a generation, on a city, on this area. If you want to be that part that's going to have an effect and make a difference because you have an obligation, God's opening the door. And if we don't do it, the adversaries, they're already at it, folks. They are at it. So now it's up to us. It was my second tour, and I saw a Ukrainian soldier pull a little boy out of a bombed-out building. We were there. It was live. I said, just keep the camera rolling. And I watched that soldier stand guard. He had his rifle. You'll see it on the video. He was standing there, trying to stand guard over this little boy. I was watching the medics trying to save the kid. The kid didn't make it. But even after the medics picked up the dead boy, put him in the ambulance, you watch that soldier was standing guard. He walked to the end of the trail there. And even when they put the boy in the ambulance, I watched that Ukrainian soldier bow his head. Even till the end, he was standing guard. I'm imploring all of us today, folks. There's a door that's opening to us, and that door is not going to be open forever. I'm going to say it again. That door is not going to be open forever. And if we all just don't collectively jump in and speak with a louder voice and stand guard for a generation, You know. You know. So I take you to Ukraine. What happens when somebody stands guard for a generation? You tell me, roll the tape, please, and I'll be finished. She was trying to explain that she just put the boy in the back room and a shell had hit the front of the house and the back of the house, and the whole thing fell in on the little one. And the rescue crews came in, they pulled him out of the rubble, laid him on the ground, and the medics are trying to resuscitate him. And there's a soldier standing there, and you can see him. You can see in the shadow. He's holding his rifle. Just standing guard. Standing guard for the boy while the medics are trying to save him. And there's a word, Ukrainian, zasnik. It means defender. But there's something about some of these guys, when there's a little boy, little girl that's been shot or killed, they stand there. They stand there. The medics are working on the kid. A guard. Just standing guard. They're standing there and watching. And this little guy didn't make it. But still, because they were putting him in the ambulance, and he's done. But the soldier still stayed. And he stayed guard. Stand guard. Oh, listen to that boy. Let me tell you something. I've spent my whole life to try to be a guardian. I've been trying to stand guard to kids all over the world, trying to do the best that I can after all these years to stand guard. I'm trying to stand guard for those. Yep. Maybe some make it, some don't. But somebody has to stand guard. Thank you for letting me. Let's follow me. Stand guard. Stand watch. Somebody has to. And I'll keep on doing it for as long as I can.
Thank you for joining us at Life Source Church. We pray that today you found hope and freedom as you experience the power and love of God. If you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, please let us know by clicking the link in the comments below. Again, thank you for joining us and have an incredible week.